I'm gonna, while there's nobody else in, I'm gonna take a minute to just give a shout out to a good enemy of mine that I used to enjoy fighting with, but because he's an idiot, I can't anymore.
Your voice is smooth, the words are clear, but your lips don't move. Yet I can hear you, oh no, you're talking out your ass again. Yakking about things that you don't know. Your thoughts come out from a different hole, oh no, you're talking out your ass again. Well, you know that we're the best of friends, and I'm always glad to see ya. But it makes me frown when I hear the sound of your verbal diarrhea. Sense and logic both succumb to the dissertations from your bum. Oh no, you're talking out your ass again.
So you're calling out an idiot that has debunked pretty much everything you've ever said, and will continue to do so.
Which is a shame, but nonetheless, when we were talking about the speed of light the other day, my view is that the photons do not come into your eye.
Well, if photons don't actually go into your eye, then your eye is not picking up any signals.
My view is that you see the light because your eye is a photograph machine of some kind.
So your eye is a photograph machine of some kind. Would that be a camera?
We focus on light sources because we have focus in our eyes in the form of the iris. That changes the focal point, and there's no such thing as photons.
So first, you think that the iris actually focuses the light into your eyes. You might want to do a little bit more anatomy research because the iris only allows a certain amount of light to come in based on how wide open the iris is. If you want to make this analogy to a camera, that would be the aperture.
I know that the photons is part of the explanation, but Shawn Hufford did a quick video showing his little laser measurer, which I called him out on. I said, right, okay, so take the laser off, then do the thing, and it'll still work. So he basically covered it with a piece of paper, did the test, and it didn't work. And I was like, what's going on there?
Well, this leads back to the title of the video. If you would have done your research on the topic, you would have known why it didn't work.
Now, it appears that Shawn was correct in the fact that his laser light works. It relies on the laser to work.
Ouch! That must have hurt. Having to admit that I was right about something?
So he called me an idiot for it.
I would like to see that quoted because I don't recall ever calling you an idiot for not understanding how a laser rangefinder works.
So I was wrong to say that his didn't need the laser light.
Now, I get this is a new feeling for you, actually having to admit that you're wrong about something, publicly. I guess that would explain why all the stuttering happened when you actually had to fess up.
So therefore, Shawn and his little yellow thing is, it does need it. It does need the laser.
Yeah, partly true. It doesn't just need the laser, it needs math.
However, there is a but to this.
Well, we can already tell that's going to happen. You're definitely going to be talking out of it here in a second.
In 2009, when we bought our first house, when we were doing it up, we had some really cool tools. And one of the cool tools, my dad had really cool tools, not me.
Well, clearly you didn't have the cool tools, because if you did, you probably would have learned how they worked.
One of the cool tools he had was a set square. And the set square was multi-purpose. It was a set square. It was also an angle measurer. It had like a built-in angle measurer that was like a spine that sat in the handle, so you could pull it out. But if you removed the ruler from the top of it, it had like a flat edge that you could use to butt up against a wall. And there was a laser in that. And you could press the button and it would tell you the distance to the next thing that it was looking at. And obviously the laser was there as a guide. Now, this is where I got my perception from.
You see, this is where the beginning of your problem is. You are going on your perception and personal experience and not ever bothering to do any real research.
One day, the set square felt it got knocked off the worktop that we were working on, and the laser didn't work anymore because lasers are quite sensitive. But the actual measuring part of it still worked. So we were in a position where, even though it was now technically broke, it would still give you the measurement, but you just couldn't see precisely what you were looking at.
And this is where research would have helped you out. You have to understand, there's more than one type of range-finding device. There's the laser version, which I have, and then there's the ultrasonic version, which is what your dad had, one of his really cool tools. The laser in that device is just for targeting, and I will get into more about the differences between both of these devices in a bit.
But most of the time, you don't need precision with what you're looking at. You just need to know that it's looking at the wall in front of you.
So when measuring, precision doesn't matter. Now everyone who has ever built anything can roll over in their graves.
But it still worked. Now, I was happy with that because I understood that the laser was being used as a guide, not as part of the measuring device whatsoever.
Again, correct. But we'll touch on this in a minute.
So that's why I had my perception that you don't need to have the laser. The laser was there as a tool, but it wasn't the critical component that made the thing work.
I can accept that. But again, since this is based on research and your knowledge of equipment, you failed in your research by not even bothering to look up whether or not a laser-based rangefinder even existed before you made the claim that the laser is not required at all.
But on Shawn's does need the laser to work, and I'm happy and I'm persuaded by his evidence that it does. So with regards to Shawn's laser measuring thing, that's fine. Shawn's does need it. I was wrong. But with regard to the one that I had back then, and I can't even remember what brand it was, but it wasn't Stanley or whatever Shawn's is. It must have had some different technology in it, but I did not need the laser for the device to still work.
Again, correct. It did have different technology than the one that your dad had. But again, you never bothered to look up whether that technology existed before you made the claim that mine wouldn't work without the laser.
So I think it's literally a case of, well, maybe it was just a different bit of technology, and technology's moved on, lasers have got smaller.
Well, technology really hasn't moved on much at all, since both of these types of rangefinders were made at roughly the same time. It has nothing to do with the lasers being smaller or larger at all.
But in any event, Shawn's needs the laser to work. Mine didn't. So shout out to Shawn. I was wrong. Your laser measuring device does need the laser. Whether it's measuring the speed of light or not is another point. But on your measuring device, it does indeed need the laser. I was wrong. You were right.
On that note, I'll go ahead and retract a statement I've said many, many times that Anthony cannot admit when he's wrong. This is the first time he's ever actually admitted that he was wrong. But as far as timing the speed of light to get a distance, we'll get on that in just a second. But as promised, I was going to talk about the two different technologies involved in rangefinders. You see, there's two different types of rangefinders that you can use. Either a laser one or a ultrasonic device. They both work primarily the same way. They transmit something, either sound or light, and the return value is timed. Each one has an advantage and a disadvantage over the other. Now, with the acoustic device like Anthony's dad had, is that the speed of sound is much slower than the speed of light, so it gets a much better average between readings. Now, the disadvantage to an ultrasonic device is that sound waves spread out much faster than a laser beam will, which means that you might get a return on sound from something that you're not intending to be a target, even though it's not directly in the line of the target. And what this will result in is a false reading on your distance. This is where the advantage of a laser comes in, because it's a very, very fine point for a target. It's just timing the light that's shining from the laser, which is usually a very small dot. This will allow you to get readings on items that are like between other items and still be able to get accurate measurements. Had Anthony ever bothered to do even the most basic research, as always, he would have found all this out before he made his absolutely absurd claims about my device. And that little bit of research would have saved this video from ever having been made. But moving on, as I promised earlier, I've actually followed up with a second test just to show how the speed of light is what's being measured and not just a spot on the wall and waiting for it to be seen by the camera. Okay guys, it's time to do a follow-up for my laser rangefinder testing. You see, Anthony still says that light doesn't travel. So does Haunted House. He's actually made a comment on my last video, but he's not followed up with that yet. But they're still saying light doesn't travel. And my contention is that this is measuring the amount of time it takes for the laser to travel to the target and then travel back to the camera. Well, I changed the setup a little bit. I still have it now sitting on a piece of foam so I can actually place something in the foam. But as you can see, I've got the laser targeting there. But I've added a mirror and then another mirror. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure the distance to the door without the mirrors. Then we're going to place a mirror in front of the laser only to where it hits the mirror in front of it, that mirror, and then the door in the same place. And we'll see if it measures a different distance, even though the camera is registering the same distance to the door. So, as our control, let's target there. You'll see a pulse. I got 10.08 feet. So now, we will mount the laser, or the mirror. And as you can see, it is only blocking the laser. So we will target over here. So we got it targeting the same place. And now we are getting 14.46 feet, even though I haven't moved anything. Let's do it again. Laser's targeting there after it hits the mirror. And we are getting 14.48 feet. Do it again. 14.49 feet. So, Anthony, it is measuring the amount of time that the laser takes to travel to the target and then back. Has nothing to do with the camera's distance from the door. Thank you. So, just because your research skills are dimmer than that laser, I can always continue to say that Anthony...
Faced with fact, you still don't quit. No room for doubt when you're full of it. Oh no, you're talking out your ass again. Don't pretend, 'cause in truth, my friend, you can't defend all the words that went out of your